Stokely Carmichael was an activist most noted for his work creating the Black Power movement. It all began with his quote, "We been sayin' freedom for 6 years. What we are going to start saying now is Black Power." His activism began in 1964 with his work in the Freedom Rides movement. It continued into 1966 when he started out as the SNCC national chairman, and then he began the Black Power movement. In 1967, he entered the Black Panther Party. The Freedom Riders were a group of activists of all races who traveled around the deeply segregated areas, particularly the South, to protest segregation of buses, trains, and other areas. In 1966, he began work with the SNCC. Carmichael followed the philosophy of nonviolent protests that were adopted by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But as the progress slowed within the organization, he began to lose faith with the nonviolent approach. By the time Carmichael was given the position of chairman, he was ready to make major changes within the organization. Carmichael began the Black Power movement in 1966. It began when James Meredith took a solitary march and was shot and killed. This caused Carmichael to round up volunteers to continue his march. During this march, Carmichael said the famous words, "Black Power," and started his movement. In 1967, Carmichael traveled and experienced other nations' views on African Americans' rights, and it caused him to join a more radical party. Carmichael's new form of activism evoked a fear in white people. Those who were previously a part of the movement began to revoke it. The older members within the movement began to resent the younger ones for their new forms of protest, and even Martin Luther King Jr. opposed it, saying it was an unfortunate choice of words. Once Carmichael began pushing the Black Power ideal, the SNCC and CORE began to revoke white members. The Black Panther movement was meant to empower African Americans, and the movement pushed an anti-police brutality message. Members began to carry weapons in order to take back their neighborhoods. Carmichael's work with the Black Panthers did not directly induce legislation. However, his continued work to promote civil rights helped create the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Carmichael changed many aspects of the social scene in America by creating a movement to cause African Americans to feel a sense of pride about who they were. This inspired later movements, such as Black Lives Matter. As a persuasive essayist, effective organizer, and expansive thinker, Carmichael stands out as one of the preeminent figures of the American civil rights movement. His tireless spirit and radical outlook are perhaps best captured by the greeting with which he answered his telephone until his dying day, "Ready for the revolution."